One. Hey everyone, welcome to another AI conversation, and I'm happy to be joined today by a person I see quite often, Jo Marie Mercado, and I'll let Jo Marie give you the quick history on himself. For the few people who don't know you, Jo Marie, no, maybe give us the background, and then let's get it started.
Oh, well, thanks, Doc. Thanks for having me. So I'm John Marie Mercado. I'm an industrial engineer. I want to start off with that one because that's my background.
Hmm.
Uh, so I've had more than 30 years experience in sales and marketing, primarily in sales and marketing. But I've dabbled in a lot of other things. I've been in the restaurant business, catering. I had a bake shop. Um, I managed a home furnishing store.
Hmm.
Most recently, prior to the pandemic, I owned a restaurant, but unfortunately had to close because of the pandemic.
Yeah, like
So
like
I've,
many
I've
other people. Yeah.
yeah, and I've tried to dabble a lot of other things, but uh, the last 20 years, I've kept going back to the IT BPM industry, and
Right.
it's something that can't seem to get it out of your system.
It's a it's a guilty pleasure, ba? Is that how it goes?
Well, it's very very satisfying. Is the best way to describe it.
Hmm.
Um, I joined the industry 20 years ago with Convergys.
Okay.
When Convergys was being set up in the Philippines, I was employee number 1,150,
Wow.
and I was tasked to handle business development. And my marching orders at that time was to grow to 3,000 employees.
Head count. Okay. Yeah.
Yep, and 20 years ago, that was unheard of.
Mm.
I mean, companies had 300 people, 400 people, 1,000 people maybe.
Mm.
But I just said, yeah, sure, sure, why not? I stayed with Convergys for 9 years, and when I left, we had 32,000 people.
Wow. So 3,000 was nothing pala in
I,
hindsight, no?
I, I,
Mm.
I was joking with my former boss that had I known that it would grow this much, I would have negotiated for a bonus every time we reach another 1,000 employees.
Oo.
I'd be filthy rich by now. But I guess that's the phenomenon of the IT BPM industry in the Philippines. I don't think we anticipated this kind of growth, this kind of success.
Mm.
And it's something that's very, very satisfying when you see people getting gainful employment because of our industry.
Yeah, my youngest brother started in Convergys, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
I don't know if I told you that, no? He was a nursing graduate, and for one reason or another, that didn't work out for him. And then, well, sorry, brother, I'm outing you now, no? But he went and applied to the contact center without telling our parents. Parang it was like a secret. And then later sinabi nila niya, oh, I've got a job now. I'm working as an agent. And that was quite controversial. We're talking like mga almost 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And
Why was it
um
controversial? Sorry, I'm
um
changing,
yeah,
turning the
yeah.
tables on you.
No, that's perfect because this is really relevant to what we're going to talk about. Um Controversial because when he was studying, unfortunately, parang especially my mother, she had a plan for him now. Oh, you're gonna finish nursing, gonna apply to the UK and be rich and you
Uh-huh.
help us out. I don't know. In a nutshell, parang ganun. My other brother also shared the same parang predestination because he was a doctor, like proper medical doctor, no. And in both their cases, the somehow it didn't really work out. It's minsan luck of the draw. So when he finally revealed, kasi he went maybe 36 months jobless. Nagtagal din, or maybe 24 months. Finally applied, got a job. And then for me, the miracle was how quickly he rose up. No, he was a team lead in no time, operations manager in a couple of years. Then he became one of the trainers in Convergys. And then he got swept up in di ba nagkaroon ng mga acquisitions later on.
Yep.
And now he's living a pretty comfortable life, got married. Yung wife niya also came from an IT BPM background, like in banking. And they now have a baby, a brand new baby, a little more than a year. recently moved into his own house. So you can see na talagang he's the stereotypical middle class success story that bucks the trend, you know. And I think at this point in time, it's many years later, I think he's made his peace with my mom, who wanted him to be a nurse. And I'm saying, you know what, it doesn't matter, it's a pretty he's highly respected in his, amongst his peers. So anyway, long story short, the while you were growing Converges, he's one of those statistics that you booked in that growth to 32K. And that's a collective story of, I would say, industry success, no?
It's yeah, and that's why I asked why it was controversial, because
Mm,
it's really interesting, because despite all the success of this industry over the last 20 years, we still get a lot of pushback from parents.
yeah,
I sent you to
some
be
weird
an
stigma.
accountant and you're going to be telephone operator. You still
Tama.
get
That's
those
the term,
kinds.
telephone
and
operator.
it's interesting because you see the success. One of our directors in Convergys before was a marine science graduate.
Yeah, yeah.
So she was saying, I never thought I'd get here, right? But it's a matter of finding the right niche, finding what you love to do.
Mm,
And this industry, despite the long hours, the crazy hours, the work that you have to put into it, it is so satisfying. And during the time that I was with Convergence, since I was with business development, when we started opening in the provinces, so we first opened in Cebu, and then we went to Bacolod, Santa Rosa, Baguio, Davao. In each case, what I will do is months before opening, I would spend time in that city to learn more about the local culture. It's really more to understand also, like, okay, what's holding us back, right? And it's interesting because, like, Bacolod, I love telling this story. In Bacolod, uh, I was interviewed by this gentleman who had a radio show, a local radio show. And I welcomed it because I wanted to communicate to the parents that, this is a good job. The perception, especially in the provinces, is why would you be working at night? So I guested it in it. We enjoyed the conversation. And then at the end of, after the interview, he was going, so what are your plans tonight? I said, I have no plans tonight. Why, what's up? I said, no, I wish I could talk to more parents. And he goes, well, for your information, I'm the head of Couples for Christ for Bacolod. And we're having
Are you a native, Ilonggo in Bacolod?
no, I'm not. I'm not.
Just it's just so
I'm
happened. Oh,
Manileño. Yep.
okay.
I just happened to be, no, I was there because I was getting the lay of the land of Bacolod. And he invited me to the Couples for Christ meeting. When I got there were 35 couples. And I was introduced. I was going to talk about the BPO industry, as we would call it at that time. And less than a minute after I started, a gentleman in the audience shouted, the problem with your people is they do nothing but smoke, drink, and have sex with their girlfriends.
You
And
know that
everybody
that's
laughed.
that's still around, that small
Exactly.
notion, no? Mm-mm.
Right. So I said, sir, let's discuss that, please. Do you remember when you were 24 years old and you suddenly realized that you had excess money in your pocket? What were you doing? And another gentleman from the other side of the room shouted, smoke, drink, and have sex with my girlfriend. And everybody laughed and clapped. And I was saying, that's the point. You're complaining about your kids doing this. You were those kids. The difference is that during our generation, I get to first base with my girlfriend. I call up my best friend and I say, pare, nakascore ako.
It's gonna be that kind of podcast.
No, sorry,
Okay.
sorry. That was just, but
No,
today
I get you.
they put it on social media. That's the difference. That's why the parents see it as you do nothing but smoke, drink, and have sex with your girlfriends because they post it on social media. But we were doing those same things. And
Can I just react to
we
that?
could discuss that. Yeah, please, go
Oh,
ahead.
kasi recently there's this all of this discussion on multi-generational workplaces, diba? And and people love putting everyone into convenient 20-year buckets, no?
Yep.
Boomers, Gen X, ganyan. And actually, if you ask me, with the exception of technology, I don't really think there are multi-generational biases. Kasi nga, for me, the best evidence is, I don't know if you remember the TV show Mad Men. It's about advertising.
Yep, yep,
Don Draper. Yung
yes,
anak ni Don Draper, si Sally, she was this rebellious teenager. Sally, in that era, was a baby boomer. She was a kid in the
yes.
60s, no? And she was acting like any Gen Z without any, no internet and all that. But the same habit. So I feel that we have this, back in the day, the boomers were accusing the millennials for being slackers. And now we're accusing the Gen Z. It's the same eh. Parang nagkataon lang. Yeah, you're correct that they get to post their antics on social media. Well, back in the day, there's really no way to know unless, feedback filtered up the line
Yeah, and
from
like,
your neighbors.
party line, I need to use the phone. I want to talk to my, I want to talk to my
Party
girlfriend,
line,
right?
oo nga.
But it's interesting because 20 years onwards, you still get that. You still, but I think the approach that I've been taking, which is let's sit down, let's have a conversation, let's get to understand what your concerns are,
Hmm.
is helpful, is powerful because, by the way, that group that I spoke to in Bacolod, three of their kids joined us in Convergys after that.
Perfect, perfect.
Yep, I know. So that's for me, that's a success story, right? But
Oo.
it's taking away the misconceptions or the perceptions that they have, especially in the provinces, because their exposure is quite limited to what
Yeah,
the industry can do.
yeah. And it's funny how it shakes down, no? Like I use myself as an example. I worked for almost uh almost 13, 14 years in a local banking job, although it was a multinational brand. And I moved to a BPO job in another multinational bank. And there was always this, oh, are you with the bank or the BPO? Parang ganun.
Yeah, yeah.
But then
Yes, yes, that is so true.
then I go abroad to our onshore mother office. In their minds, it doesn't matter. You're the
Yeah.
Manila branch. You're doing our back office. So it's a weird thing that only exists here in the Philippines. It seems, no. There's this weird, parang invisible, parang caste system. If you're in the
Oh,
BPO, you're different. You're kind of
no, but Doc, let me clarify that. I was in Guatemala and they had exactly the same issue.
same phenomena. Hmm.
Yes, I guess maybe it's the Latin background, the family
Maybe.
concept,
Hmm.
but they had the same issue. And I told this story to them when I was there, and they really enjoyed it. And one of them afterwards asked me, "You were so brave to stand in front of that crowd." And I said, "Yeah, but you can't. You shy away from that. You'll never be able to fix that problem.
Yeah.
You have to face it." Um, I'll tell you another story. To Gigarao. So
Hmm.
I was invited to go to Gigarao. Maybe this is about maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Again, to talk about the industry. I entered the room, there were about 70, 75 people in the room. And we started the presentation. And then I said, before I proceed, let me ask you first. How many of you will not allow your son or daughter to work at night?
Will not. Okay.
Yes, more than half raised their hands. And I said, okay, sir, why will you not allow your daughter to work at night? And immediately he said, it's not safe. Well, the gentleman sitting front and center, right in front of me, was the chief of police. I said, sir, he says it's not safe. So everybody started laughing, right? So I said, let's talk about it. And bottom line is, as a parent, the mindset is that if my daughter goes out at night, it's not safe. So I'd rather have her stay at home. But when we discussed it, based on the crime rate, based on the situation in Tubigarao, it was actually safe.
Yeah,
So again,
it's something
it's
like
the
near zero
misconception.
nga yata sa Tugigaraw eh. It's not a very,
Point 43.
di ba?
So it's but you don't address it, you don't talk about it. That perception will stay in the minds of the parents. And when you have an industry that's actually struggling to hire people, we have so many openings, we have so many job opportunities, and we're not able to hire enough people. That's so frustrating.
So it seems like that was that always the challenge, like recruitment, or has it gotten better or worse in your view?
Um, it has changed, but I think it's not gotten better in the sense that the skill sets that they're looking for today are much more complex than it was 20 years ago. So, because of the level of complexity, AI is a classic example, right? Um, I know one BPO that uses an AI tool where, in the course of the conversation with the customer, the AI tool will now pick up the conversation, and then three windows will pop up on your screen with suggestions on how you can move your conversation forward and resolve the customer's issue. So you say, wow, perfect, right? You're giving me something to work on. The challenge now is you have to think fast. Your critical thinking becomes very important because now I have to look at the three and decide which of the three options will I pick up and carry forward with my conversation with my customer. So it's more complex in terms of, before it was what's your credit card number, right? Trying to resolve problems with your credit card. Today, there are no scripts. The only thing that's scripted is the opening and the closing spiel. So, yes, recruitment is still an issue, is still a challenge because our requirements in terms of competencies or skills are much higher.
In those early days, no, it's good to get some sense of history. How was the
Love how you say early days.
from unang-unang panahon?
Thank you,
Uh,
making me feel ancient, but go ahead.
no, no, kasi I still remember enough of it. Na I don't remember when the inflection point was. Must have been probably early 2000s, no, when it started to really pick up. But in the kind of the early days, like the late 90s, parang it felt like a strange thing. Like I was even interviewed in a call center once upon a time. It was eTelecare, no, once upon a time. And I remember it was a very impressive office. It's in a brand new Citibank building in Libis. Everything's new. And I found the interview it's strange kasi it was an agent job. So you had accent interview. They ask you to repeat certain words. They also had this parang test to test how creative you can get in problem solving. I still remember the question eh. Without Googling, tell us how heavy a 747 is. So you have to reason by analogy and whatnot. No?
Right.
Um, and then you had the typing test. How fast can you encode? So there's going to be a voice that will dictate stuff in a rather brisk manner and try to jot down as many notes as you can. Talagang they were testing aptitude for a contact center. And I still remember back then kasi I studied finance. Eh. Parang at the back of my mind, did I really study finance to be a telephone operator? Kind of thing, no? And then, lo and behold, because I did not push through. I took another job in the similar office, but not that job. It would be at least a decade and a half later before I officially joined the IT BPM sector in banking na. Pero I remember the people who were in that same interview, some of them I knew from school or friends. In like 5 years, they were operations managers, earning upwards, no? And I said, what the hell am I doing? In my proper job. And then all of these guys are now running. Kasi nga, talagang the demand was so high and the pressure was there to onboard leaders. And I remember then, that was an early struggle for BPOs. You don't have a leadership bench. So you were
Yes.
either importing from abroad or uh, kaya it was upward mobility for anyone who would just raise their hands. Suddenly, you're the manager. And of course, the pressures are there. Pero wow, no, what a rare opportunity, no, for anyone who wanted
Well,
to
two
step
things
up.
that I'd like to comment on what you said. Like,
Mm,
number one, um, I think the upward mobility is not just because there is a demand and therefore people move up faster. One thing that I really love about this industry is it's very, very data driven.
correct.
Everything is recorded, everything is on paper, such that you're promoted because of your performance. You're
Merit. It's
promoted
merit
because
based.
of your, it's very, very merit based.
Mm.
The subjective component is very, very minimal. So your friends who got to be operations managers in 5 years, they had the competencies or
Yeah,
they
and they
built
were
their
very good.
competencies to get there.
Oh.
The second thing that you said is like the challenge of leadership, it's still there. And
Mm.
by the way, you said, oh, we had to import some of those talents. That's true. Today, in the countryside, that's the same challenge.
Same problem.
So you've got BPO companies who would want to open in a provincial location. They can find the agents, but where do I find the
The leaders.
managers?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I
But
know more than a
there,
few people
yeah,
who went back. Manila based,
yeah,
pero they're from Iloilo. They went back. Para,
and that's
oh,
that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity in the countryside today. The phenomenon of the pandemic was such that a lot of people realized that I can go back home to my hometown and still make a good living. So
mm,
today, when somebody opens a facility outside Manila, what they do is they look at their own backyard and find out, okay, who among my managers were born, raised, and educated in this city?
right.
And talk to them and say, would you like to come home? And it's best of both worlds. You not only get the experience talent, but you make that person very, very happy
Yeah,
because
all
you brought
in.
them
Yeah,
home.
all in yun.
Yep.
Parang quality of life
So
plus profession.
So when I talk to the local government units, to the ICT councils in the different cities, that's what I always tell them.
Mm,
Trace your graduates, find out where they are, so that when the investors come to your city and say, "Okay, I'm interested in opening in your city. How do I overcome some of those challenges?" You can easily come up and say, "I've got 300 of my graduates working in Manila right now with IT BPM companies,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll be willing to come home." And that's what we want to happen. We want them to come home.
In terms of and you'll be one of the best people to talk about this. No? Uh, Most of the early jobs were, yeah, no, customer care, technical support. But now it's obviously quite diverse. When did that start to happen, or was there a trigger for that? Kasi ngayon, you
I
have
think it was
lots
a
of other
roadmap.
things on the roadmap. Okay.
One of the things that we're proud of in this industry is we've had roadmap since 2010. And
Mm-mm.
I think it was the 2016 roadmap where we highlighted the fact that ITBPM is not just call centers. Well, that
Yeah.
time it had actually already progressed to being called a contact center rather than a call center.
From
Because
telephone
it was no longer
operator
just
to call
voice.
center, ito ngayon ano na,
Now, contact center,
contact
because
center.
it's no longer just voice. There's chat, there's email, there's social media, right?
Right, right.
But it's still essentially customer care and technical support. But then that's when the demand for the other sectors like health, especially healthcare, but IT, um, the demand for programmers, the demand for network administrators kept growing. And this phenomenon also started happening as a lot of the shared services companies,
Yep.
or what we call global capability centers, they came to the Philippines, they set up their accounting office in the Philippines.
Right. Right.
When they started to see the success, they were going, hey, what about if we also do HR here?
Mm,
Or what about we start doing IT here? So it
mm.
starts growing. And when the industry saw that, we decided to make sure that we put it as part of the roadmap so that when we talk about upskilling, when we talk about providing opportunities, we talk about those things as well. We don't just talk about English accent, which, by the way, no longer applies.
Oo.
You don't need an American accent because what the hell is an American accent anyway?
Kasi
Uh,
neutralization na yung habol. Yeah.
no, it's. I always go back to that. It's not being able to just speak in English. It's being able to communicate in English.
Oo. I got I got to taste the brunt of that also because in that bank BPO job, my role was to initiate offshoring. So I'll be the receiving party, and I have a counterpart in Australia who would send those jobs. So a lot of the discussion was the general skepticism of the onshore parties na could we really hire, PhDs and ganyan ganyan. And one of the biggest, kasi it's a banking job, and it's a finance job. One of the biggest I would say success stories was, apart from the communication, ang weird parang where have you been hiding? Don't you know Filipinos speak English? Parang ganun yung impression. But then moving further than that, the argument was, hey, look, we can displace two of your PhDs and we'll hire maybe five or six bachelor's degrees. And not only will we be able to service the same output, we can do it cheaper pa, more
Yep.
productively. So it wasn't just cost arbitrage, it was headcount arbitrage per se, no? The role arbitrage. And it was weird but good, no? Kasi in a way it was experiencing how do you market the Philippines beyond beyond the English, beyond the tourist, the beaches. You're literally selling the idea that there are talents here. And I remember I made this weird fancy PowerPoint. And my argument was, we have a banking sector that you can pirate from. Parang ganun ang dating. So there are people like myself with, decent banking experience. And to the Australians, they found that really pleasant surprise. Parang, wow, all we know from the Philippines is floods and, insurgency and Manny Pacquiao. And
Well,
apparently, you guys are bankers, no? Sabi ko,
right.
parang at some point, you stop getting insulted and just more of, yeah, but, parang let's open your eyes and see show you what we can do. Parang ganun ang dating.
I would always say at that time when I was doing business development is that just bring the customer, bring the clients to my country,
Just fly them here. They'll see it.
and then I make them sit down with the agents,
Mhm.
and it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Because then that's when they begin to really see. It's such as to your point. It's not just a matter of being able to speak in English,
Mm.
but when they see the empathy, when they see the malasakit that is so natural to us, it's second nature. Um, the One of my favorite stories is there's this executive vice president of a huge bank. Might
Okay.
be talking about a similar bank.
Oh.
She was in the Philippines to check it out,
Mm.
and then she flew back to New York. The following day, my phone rings. It's her, and she goes, "Hey, Joe Marie, I just got into the office, and I just had to call you." And I said, "Why? What happened?" I almost got into an accident getting into the office this morning. The front door almost slammed into my face. I said, "Why? What happened? What's wrong?" And she goes, "After spending 1 week in the Philippines where everybody opens a door for you, I forgot." But it's a funny story, but it is very typical of what our clients experience when they come to the Philippines.
Right.
That it's and that's why we want them to come here, because they have to experience it to
Mm.
really understand and appreciate. Because then they will see that nature of the Filipino in terms of service, in terms of being able to help other people, just comes naturally to us.
Yeah, we're naturally what's the word? But we used to use words like service-oriented culture as to
Yep,
corporate. Pero yeah, malasakit is the closest. But is there in English? Compassionate, maybe? I don't know.
yep. Empathetic.
Empathetic. I mean, we're just generally pleasant people to be with, no? And
Yep,
of course, one of the symptoms is there have been a number of, expat Filipino relationships and marriages that have resulted from the IT BPM industry. That's generally a good thing. Cross-pollination, basically, no? And then the other's the flip side then pala, where the IT BPM career, because these jobs are designed with the kind of the onshore country in mind, it's been proven to be a good path for people to actually move abroad or to work abroad for a
yeah.
period. Kasi they understand, oh yeah, you work for so and so, I know how they work, I know what kinds of work they do. So it's a more straightforward way of getting hired abroad. Which is I think a plus, no? Kasi parang ano nga I used to think of it as parang BPOs are your OFWs who never have to leave the country, you know.
And they spend their money in our own country.
Yeah, yun pa, no.
So we always talk about how this industry generated close to $36 billion, right, for the Philippine economy last year. The OFWs, about 38 billion, I believe.
Yeah,
The difference is that this 36 billion was spent all in the Philippines.
correct.
So you can imagine how it impacts the economy. And again, that's one of the things that excites me so much about the countryside. It's when you go to a city where the IT BPM industry is not yet there,
And you're bringing it
you see
there.
what it's like. And then fast forward 3, 5 years later. I mean, have you been to Iloilo lately?
I was there just a quarter ago. I'm like completely floored. Kasi the last time I was there
Right,
was pre-pandemic, 2018.
correct.
And that Mega World Township was barely filled up. Ngayon, I
Yep.
couldn't even recognize it for what it was. Sabi ko, ito na ba yun? It's all filled up, that area around Marriott Courtyard. It's practically BGC in Iloilo.
Yes.
And
So
I know I sound strange saying it if you're from Iloilo. Like, oh, look at this guy comparing it to BGC. Who cares about your BGC? We have our own here, diba? Parang
and,
ganun ang dating.
actually, that's a great point. That's one of the other things that we're beginning to see manifest in the countryside.
Oo.
They're really beginning to develop their own sense of pride in their own city.
Yeah, our own
And it's no
identity.
longer, I'm the poor relation of Metro Manila. I'm
Yeah.
actually better than Metro Manila. So we like that. Cebu is totally unrecognizable, right? I think
Wala na.
the
The only thing I
the
recognized
worst
was
part is
the
that
ano,
they
was the
inherited our
airport.
traffic.
Oh, yeah, correct. Which is an kind of a unfortunate na well, actually you would think sana now with these cities moving up, they would learn from the mistakes of the NCR and kind of plan better, zoning, public transport. I mean, it's not too late for some of the cities. They can
It's
still
not. I mean,
adjust.
and you mentioned Iloilo. Iloilo is a good example. If you
Mm,
look at the Mega World Township, for example, and then attached to that is an Ayala development and an SM
mm.
development, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They've all started to take that into consideration. Public
Already.
transportation, terminal hubs, and all of these things.
Mm-mm.
Um, the ICT Council of Iloilo actually spent time going to Manila. They spent time going to Cebu. The local government unit supported that so that they can see what it's like and then, as you said, learn from the lessons.
Mm.
The challenge of some cities is that the infrastructure is already there
You
and
have to
it's
work
not that
around it.
easy.
Mm.
Iloilo had the benefit of having an old airport, so you basically had, uh, what do you call this? An
Par-
empty canvas to
Parang
work on.
free reign on that new area,
Yes,
no?
that's
They didn't
right.
have to touch the downtown, left
So
downtown
the other
as is.
cities are challenged by that because it's already crowded as it is. So how do we do this?
Yeah. So I'm curious lang, no? So many questions to ask, no? But job complexity. Kasi yeah, here's a good angle. From my experience in the banking, that banking transition, um, clearly the jobs we were offering in the BPO, in the shared services, were more advanced than what we were doing locally. So in a way that was the come on. So if you were working for local banks like BPI, Metrobank, blah blah blah, and you happen to be in the kind of the high end labor space like data analytics, ganyan, software development, we would tell them, hey, look, do you even do this stuff that you studied in school? Because here we need people like you who know how to do it. No, you're gonna be doing advanced predictive modeling, AI, the stuff you would probably have to go abroad for. You can do it here, and that was an immediate come on. And in many ways, that's still the case now, lalo na with AI. No, I struggle to think of any local company who would be hiring, AI talent en masse. There are a couple of, banks and so who are claiming to do so, but I know people who work there, they're bored to their wits,
Yeah,
and, kung hindi lang dahil sa sweldo, they would probably not take it. But in the equivalent posts in the IT BPM side, talagang you're gonna learn, that stuff because that's what you're gonna be doing it for New York, you're gonna be doing it for UK, you're gonna be doing it for Australia. Ganun talaga. So, and that doesn't happen by accident. I think that's a interesting miracle. It's just amazing to see it now, no? But how was it developing back in the day, no? Or did you have an inkling that that would occur?
It's 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 good and bad what you just said, because that's been happening for so many years, right?
Mm,
And it's you see that not just in the IT BPM industry, it's in any industry. I spent 14 years with IBM, right?
yeah.
And the a lot of these companies will say, okay, there are certain things that we need to get done.
Mm,
Why don't I train my own people so that they can do it themselves, right? So you see that happening. The downside is that when we now have clients who will say, okay, you guys are doing such a great job. I need more people to do this.
yeah.
We have to start producing it in the volume that
En
they're
masse.
looking for.
Mm,
Right. So the talent development programs of IBPAP, for example, are going to be critical in terms of really being able to, and your role in IBPAP is actually going to be very, very critical, because it's really identifying what specific areas of AI, for example, should we train our graduates.
tama. That's the sweet spot, How do you address that?
Yep, because it's no, and my concern is always, it's so easy to say, okay, let's train them on AI, but they walk out of there with certain competencies, and
Oo.
there is no, to your point, there is no job available for them.
Mm,
They're overqualified, so they end up going to Singapore or in the US.
yeah.
So we just spent a lot of time and effort improving the skills of our graduates, only to lose them to other countries. So I think it's also important that we focus on what are these competencies, but
Mm,
match it with what do the companies need,
right.
so that we provide that pipeline to what the companies need. And then
Yeah.
as there, for example, the banks that you cited as an example, as they grow that AI practice within their organization, then they will be able to identify more and more, okay, additional competencies in AI that I need.
Correct.
And that's why in very particularly in AI, I think it's very, very important that there is a very strong academe industry partnership.
Yeah. How was it? Did you always have that in the parang formative stages? Because I don't think I'd be stretching it too much when I say that's still a room for improvement. No, I'm not just
Oh
talking
yeah,
IT BPM. No. I'm just talking even in general, industry, academia. They don't really align too much.
it's it's
It's a big
it's.
silo.
I was in Tuguegarao 3 weeks ago, and the president of one of the universities was saying that the challenge is that the exit skills of our graduates do not match the entrance skills
Of
that
the
are required
employers.
by the industry.
Yeah.
And we've been hearing the same thing 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was mostly in terms of communication skills.
English. Tama. Mm-mm.
It was English, right? Um, so we put up a lot of training programs, very, very good partnership with TESDA during that time, actually, even up to now, in terms of trying to bridge that particular competency. But
Tama.
as you said, the skills that I think the challenge right now is that the breadth of skills required has expanded so much.
Mm.
When we were in contact center, it was a nice, comfortable area.
Sakto-saktuhan lang, ano?
Yeah, and kabisado na namin what we need. And it's a matter of putting together the programs to address that. But now it's like you've got AI, you've got data analytics, you've got RPA, everything is, and everybody's sprouting all of this. And then a lot of the schools are excited to teach those.
Mhm.
But again, it goes back to that. I teach them, and then where's the job?
They go abroad. Yeah. We're exporting them. I saw this firsthand. Again, I'm looking at that banking job. Because in many ways, there were waves nga eh. The first wave was mostly contact center. The second wave were these parang higher, quote unquote, higher value. And I remember that shared services office was run by veterans na from the contact center era of the previous 10 years. No? So they were unfamiliar with these new skills. That's why they hired someone like me. Well, I came from
Yep.
banking, and the onshore client wanted certain skill sets. They could not basically make heads or tails of it. But when you talk about a contact center job, it's already highly understood, metricized, structured. They know the kind of the progression. While these new exotic skills, which is half technology and half domain knowledge, were really hard. So I remember it was kind of a split culture. So if the original cultural split was BPO and non-BPO, and then nabuo yung BPO. Then there was this BPO, and then yeah, remember the term KPO? That kind of had
Yeah.
a very short for a while. So I would say that was that split. That there's the BPO culture, and then you have this emerging KPO thing, which
Right.
is
Right.
everything else now. And I think now it's kind of medyo blurred a bit, but that was interesting. No? Did you see that? And how was that when it was happening?
It was you described it so well. It was the domain skills
Tama.
that became critical, and the phenomenon was really more in terms of the companies realized that I cannot rely on outside resources to build that competency within my organization.
Yeah.
So I'll get a banker, for example, and then just train that person into the BPO environment. And then in the process, start upskilling some of my BPO workers into that domain, into that banking domain. Um, I think what is interesting is that the banking domain still continues to be the biggest. There's telecommunications, of course. But healthcare is the one that really exploded like anything in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And you're really talking about that entire gamut from pure revenue management all the way to telehealth.
Yeah.
So, and that's really taking advantage of the big talent pool that we have of medical graduates, medical related fields, even we're not just talking about nurses, but doctors and
Doctors,
even
yeah.
radio
Medtechs,
med techs.
pharmacists. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, then we get complaints from some hospitals that we're stealing their nurses because we're paying more.
Yeah, I know na, for example, in Dumaguete, there is a startup BPO who hires mga nursing students. And they're perfectly happy to use that BPO as a launch pad until they get some nursing work abroad. Kasi nga it counts as somehow it counted as work experience. It's not 100%. Maybe a big chunk of them end up hanging around here anyway because some of them will weigh the pros and cons of being far away from the family. And as you said, the pay is not bad. So they'll stick it out na lang in the BPO and still be able to leverage their nursing background. No? Same then for legal. There's already a growing legal process
Yep.
outsourcing. Of course, the accounting. Accountants used to go to the Caymans, no? These tax shelters.
Yes.
May mga ganong
Right.
subculture, di ba?
Yep.
And now they're sticking around, no? So I'll be and this is not the because I studied accounting actually. I completely missed that boat intentionally. So I I didn't want to go through the ranks as a auditor and eventually aim to be an accounting partner. That was not in my DNA. No? But then in hindsight, sabi ko, oh, if I had caught that even the tail end of that accounting boom, wow, no? Mga financial shared services huge, no? We can't even feel them enough. No? Okay, can I ask this thing? Because I don't know how sensitive this will be, but I used to have a theory, back in BPO days. Kasi a big chunk of that was also dealing with the expat population. Because naturally, they'd send people from onshore to be there. In some companies, particularly in the company I worked for, it was considered a privileged assignment. Be sent to Manila
Yeah.
to kind of run the colony. Sabi ko nga, BPOs are the modern day colonies. No? Yung mga the way we defined encomienda back in the
Yeah.
Spanish
Uh-huh.
era. So parang ganun yan. There's a BPO and you could be a young up and coming executive in New York or in Melbourne, or you go manage the encomienda in Manila and you cut your teeth there. So para siyang launchpad din. They go there, obviously they live the expat lifestyle. Some of them never leave because it's such a comfortable life. But then most of them actually end up coming back to home, armed with the idea na, hey, look, I've managed our offshore colony back at, I don't know if that's offensive to some, but it felt like that. Kasi nga, on the flip side naman, you have the locals, like me, who are also experienced and talented. Talagang it's a caste system. You have the you have the expat who came in, and then your goal was to at least be qualified enough to take that person's place kasi there's always going to be a natural progression. For cost purposes also, you're not paid as an expat. So parang it's a serious consideration by a company to invest in an expat package to build up the office. And then syempre, that's never forever. You can either get localized. Some of them did, but most of them syempre would not want to get localized. Or on the flip side, a local proto executive or middle manager can be promoted. So you get more bang for your buck, no? You can give this guy a promotion, he gets paid way above average compared to the average Pinoy, but never at the level of the expat. Parang win-win lahat, no? So I found that system really, really fascinating because here was institutionalized private sector colonial mentality. But it seemed to be, happy for everyone. It seemed to be working
Well,
for everyone.
well, to your point, it's not limited to the IT/BPM sector. That
Mm,
happens everywhere, right?
yeah.
But here's the thing that I've seen in this industry, because it is a very metrics based industry.
Mm.
We're
Netflix.
seeing less and less. We're seeing less and less of these expats coming in
Oo nga.
because they're finding out that we can build the skills or the competencies inside. The
Locally.
expats are important because we need certain skills, which if we want to see it grow organically, it will take forever.
Tech
So
transfer.
this helps
Basically,
speed
tech
up the
transfer. Mm.
process.
Mm.
The other benefit is that, yes, you're right. There's a large percentage of these expats who end up staying here permanently.
Yeah, they hang
They
around.
refuse to go home.
They're
Yep,
enjoying in
they they
themselves,
lo-
no?
they love it, and a lot of them convert from expats to local hire.
Papalocalize sila. Oo. I
Yeah,
think it should
but
mirror parang Singapore, right? There's practically
yes,
it's an expat population, but they don't mind being permanent residents. Of course, Singapore is still
yes.
Singapore, right? But of
The
course,
the other the ones who do go back home, by the way, the other benefit is that they personally saw what the capabilities of the Filipino IT/BPM worker
are.
can do,
Mm.
and they're the one. They become um, our salespeople in their corporate
Parang
headquarters to say,
ambassadors ang dating, di ba?
yeah,
Ganun, oo.
let's send more work to the Philippines because they're doing a hell of a job. So it's beneficial to us also in that particular sense.
Yeah, I remember. I'm still in touch with a number of foreign nationals who've long since gone back home. And they remember with fondness their time in Manila or their time in Cebu. Ganun eh. Kasi it really felt like an adventure for them. Many of them brought their families with them and they settled here for several years. It'll always be one of those adventures. Eh, parang it mirrors then the OFW experience. No? If you worked
Yeah,
abroad, may pagka ganun. I guess in a way, there is sort of a certain hierarchy, no? With a few exceptions. If you're an OFW, you're going there as a minion. Pero yung mga expats, they're coming here as the boss. Although you also have parang a double feedback loop of people who went abroad as a minion, became a boss, and then came back as a
yes,
boss. And then
correct.
now you have Pinoys who are back as expats, basically. And that's like
But
the best of all worlds, no? You're like an expat
you,
in your
you,
own
you
country.
mentioned OFWs. You know what my dream is?
Mm.
My dream is that we're able to bring this OFWs home to work for the IT/BPM industry.
Yeah, there's a huge overlap.
We've got
Huge
all these
overlap.
opportunities. I wish they'd come home because they will find out that they actually earn more than what they're earning
In
where
some
they
cases,
are.
yes, kasi may taxes abroad, diba? So
Yep.
if you net out the taxes, you could keep your same base rate and you pay the relatively lower at this rate Philippines tax. And net, bawi-bawi ka. Or at least you get to maintain just one household na lang. Kasi many of them have a dual household setup.
Right.
They have their house
And dual
here and
families too.
dual families. Yeah, actually, or more. Or more. Okay, sige. I'm just conscious we're nearly at the hour and we're just barely
Wow.
scratching the
Okay.
reminiscence, no? Um, talk about the future, no? I mean, you've seen it all, personally and as a member of the IDPAP, and you've been in and around. What are some indicators you see, or some kind of prospects that you see in the years ahead? Good and bad. Let's be realistic. It's not all good. So, it's up to you. Do you want to talk about the bad things first or the good things? Some things you're expecting.
Well, let's start with a good thing. Definitely, the roadmap 2028 aspiration of growing our industry to 2.5 million direct employees, I think is very achievable.
Okay.
Especially with the phenomenon that's happening around the globe right now, where you've got countries like Japan and a lot of areas in Europe with aging populations. So the healthcare industry will really benefit from this. There's a lot of cost cutting that needs to be done. Uh, so I think that's very, very beneficial to the industry. The the challenge is really to constantly work with the academe to always be on our toes in terms of what skills, what competencies do we need to teach our students.
Right.
Because the today we're competing with so many other countries. I mean, South Africa uh, is growing like leaps and bounds. Central America, I mentioned Guatemala earlier. They're having their annual BPO conference in Guatemala City this week, and they talk about their aspirations to gain more of the share of the pie. So there are more countries competing for the same business that used to be between India and the Philippines,
Right.
right? So so our skills will constantly be the challenge, and then of course the threat of AI.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, it will always be there, and it's like there are personally, I feel that it is beneficial because it will take away the mundane tasks that a lot of
Mm,
agents don't like to do anyway,
right.
right?
The
So,
manual stuff. Yeah.
correct. So, I think it will benefit our employees. Our advantage is that these people that we already have in the industry and are knowledgeable about the industry, it's a matter of upskilling them in order to handle more complex types of work.
Mm,
But because they've been in the industry for a while, they know what the industry has done for them in terms of their livelihood, in terms of their professional careers. They're more open and accepting to the upskilling challenges.
yeah.
So we're not starting from scratch. I'm actually I actually think that AI will result in more jobs rather than taking away jobs.
That's syempre that's pretty much the territory I'm operating in. And so many news stories are coming out now that I don't think anyone would have actually expected, no. For example, there's this very recent story, as in literally just this week. I talked to a head of a BPO, and they did suffer job losses last year, as in 20% headcount reduction, because the client opted for a full AI solution, and they do documentation kind of work, no. Now he's saying that the company is doubling back because the AI
Yeah.
experiment failed. It didn't work for them. So now it's been around long enough for it to fail. Kasi noong una, people are experimenting. But the problem now is, syempre after you made the decision to shed 100% of that account, ang hirap na to replenish. Kasi
Yeah.
nga, you
Because
lost
these
those
guys found other jobs already.
already. And they were trained by you. You donated them
Yeah.
to other people. So that's one interesting, close to the heart, no, yung story na yan. And then on the more macro view, I'm sure you've heard those stories like the Amazon story na apparently the AI system pala that spots your groceries is actually a BPO in India watching you via CCTV. And then another US company, they claimed their AI drive-through system was actually a call center in Manila
Yeah,
answering
yes,
the
that's right.
orders. Mga ganong nakakatawa. So I feel na okay, it doesn't necessarily debunk the job displacement scenario. Although maybe the first story partially did kasi nagka-displacement nga ngayon, they're regretting it. But the other two are, I would say, more of hype na just because people said AI, they're gonna do AI, doesn't mean they're gonna succeed. And that's so true. Kasi if we go by, your IBM, the old technology trends of the past, CRM, data warehousing, they kind of have a high failure rate. Most IT people
Yeah,
don't admit that upfront. No? They're either off schedule or they never achieve it. McKinsey says it's 70%. Kaya ninote ko yun eh. Actually, it's 69, but I think they rounded it up to make it less controversial. 70%. So I guess 7 out of 10 odds is not very good. I would not bet my career on a 7 out of 10 failure rate.
right. Yep.
While offshoring has been more successful. Kasi if it's automation versus offshoring kasi is you just move the headcount to a quote unquote cheaper location. It's stickier, it's easier to manage, it's still people as opposed to having to, program AI agents. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Yeah, at some point certain levels of automation will happen. But it's not 100%. I don't even think it'll be 50%. You know, that's my gut feel. And then now that
No,
I'm hearing
and
these stories, parang I feel vindicated now. Tamo, they failed.
yeah, I think the challenge for companies, with that example that you gave earlier also, is that how do I assess my portfolio
Mm,
and find out, okay, which are susceptible to the AI phenomenon,
the disruption.
and how do I balance out that work? Um, and it's a challenge. You know why? Because especially the contact center space, the contact center demand is still growing like anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I just attended the launch of a site of a BPO in Santa Rosa,
Mm,
and they will be hiring 3,000 people, all contact
wow.
center.
Wow.
It's just like that, right? So, and they're looking at another site now because the demand from their client base is still growing. So you always have that nice problem to have scenario where I want to be more strategic in running my business and looking forward and finding out. But then at the same time, I've got my clients knocking at my door and saying, I want 500 more agents to cover my requirements. And next thing you know, everybody's scrambling to fill in that 500 because that's revenue now as
Yeah.
against revenue tomorrow.
Parang I think that's a very legitimate point. I don't think people have any real visibility about the pending backlog for offshoring. Kasi it's very simplistic to imagine. Oh yeah, may AI na, we switch it off. We switch on the AI, switch off the call center. Hindi. We've got a backlog. I remember the last stat I heard na of the total offshoreable jobs, combined India and the Philippines barely scratches 27%.
Yeah,
So there's far
correct.
more jobs that are just waiting to be sent. We just can't absorb it fast enough. And it includes India na. So that means that even if at some point AI starts gobbling up those jobs from onshore, it does not change the backlog that's already been put in the pipeline. And it's really just us being too slow with the labor production to satisfy that demand. This could be years, no? If not a decade more possible growth. And people don't, it's impossible kasi for them to see it eh. Parang the only thing you can see is the orders eh. Pag naglanding na dito, how
Yeah,
many.
exactly.
Hindi mo
But you
alam
saw the
yung
Everest
universe.
study about AI, right?
Mm.
They published, I think, about a couple of months back, where they're saying a lot of companies in the US are not quite ready to implement AI.
No,
They're
no.
3 years away from it.
That's very
But
aggressive pa nga, the 3 years.
yeah,
Kasi, yeah.
but basically, what Everest was saying is that you've got a 3 year window to plan and prepare for it. So the AI phenomenon is happening, but the impact to you is most probably going to be 3 years down the road.
3 years and
So you've got
at
three
that point,
years to
it's not
prepare.
dramatic. It's just minimal pa nga eh.
And by the way, technology 3 years down the road is going to be dramatically different also. So
Oh,
whatever you plan for or prepare for will most
would
probably
be
be,
irrelevant, no, by then.
yep, exactly. And it's I think the advantage of the IT BPM industry in the Philippines is that we've got the solid foundation of a
Mm,
business
mm.
that is there and will still be there despite what you just said about how AI will impact it. AI will definitely impact it. There's no question about it. But it's really two things. Number one is it's not going, my personal take is that the impact is not going to be as big as some people fear it to be.
Mhm.
But secondly, we've got the lead time to plan for it and prepare for it. But we have to start acting now. We can't wait 3 years down the road and then start saying, "Oh, okay, we need to do something about this."
You know what will likely be a bigger problem, and I hope I don't eat up my words later, is there's this sense of who are the leaders and who are the laggards. Eh. Even in the stories we've heard, like the call center, BCG, there's that University of Minnesota, where AI was able to help the lower performers catch up to the
Yeah,
average. Now, if you look at it at a macro level, the leaders are India and Philippines, but you have all of these lagging countries, no? Latin America, Eastern Europe. My thought bubble is if they figure out Gen AI, chances are they might end up catching up. So we don't necessarily
yes,
lose whatever we have, but in terms of the new pipeline, it's going to go to those other guys. And it's more of an opportunity lost rather than an actual loss. But it's still a loss just the same because of AI. So it wasn't necessarily a displacement. Kumbaga, whatever you've got, you keep it. Because it's also hard to let go of those jobs that you've already sent on offshore, eh, di ba? Parang you
yeah,
can't onshore them anymore, no? It's going to be impossible. But you may or may not give Philippines the future volume. If, for example, whatever, Vietnam, Malaysia, or Poland, mga ganyan, or Brazil, Chile,
right,
whatever, Mexico, perhaps, scale up to a level where they can be competitive, they have time zone advantages, and maybe possibly language advantages then, lalo na in the European sector, you'll need French and German and all these other
right.
non-English. Baka yun pa yung mangyari. So as on top of playing defense, we have to be continually aggressive then. How do we tap all of these other geographies and how do we sell our skill sets better? Baka yun yung mangyari. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud.
Well,
Kasi
another
no
way
one's
of
watching
looking
that.
at how AI can benefit us, on the other
Mm.
hand, is that our challenge, for example, you mentioned it, European languages, right?
Mm.
I was in Vietnam recently, and I had a tour guide who didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
I mean, it's like that's unheard of, right? I mean, that's why I got a tour guide because I wanted, but he used Google Translate the whole time.
Mm.
He will say something in Vietnamese and then make me listen to it, and
And
then
then
I will
Google Translate.
respond,
Oh,
right, just using Google Translate. AI grows into that level of real time translation.
yeah.
Suddenly, the European language market, which we are not able to tap as well,
It's finally reachable.
will open
Parang
up.
ganun. Mm.
Yes. So I always, sorry, I'm a very optimistic person. I always look at things half glass full. I see
Oo.
this as opportunities rather than threats. Yes, the other countries will always be there. But again, let's go back to that. I mean, the bulk of the IT BPM industry is still contact center, customer service, customer care.
Mm. Mm.
And what really sets us apart, you cannot use technology to take away the empathy and the genuine service that we
Component.
provide.
Yeah, you're right.
What my favorite comment from a client before was that they're saying the biggest advantage of the Philippines is that when you're talking to a Filipino call center agent, you know that the agent is smiling while he is talking to you.
Yeah.
The
Kasi you can hear
smile
the smile
transcends
eh.
minds. Yes, you
Ah,
can hear the smile.
ah.
So the genuine desire to help is there. And no amount of AI will take that away.
Hmm. Yeah, perfect. I mean, I would totally agree to that. Um, we're finally at the hour.
Oh my
uh,
God, we're not going to talk about more controversial issues like no, we're not going to talk politics, right?
we're gonna save that for another episode, but what I'd love to hear from you is maybe from your own view. Uh, how would you advise aspiring entrants to IT-BPM or those who may be still reluctant? Let's address those guys kasi meron pa rin eh, 'di ba sabi natin, there's still some some skepticism. What's the best way to woo them over? What's your sales pitch, if ever? Or to parents, maybe what you're gonna tell the parents.
We have 1.7 million direct employees in this country, in this industry. The first step is to talk to any one of them. I am sure you know someone or you have a cousin, barkada, who is working for this industry.
Mm,
You need to understand what this industry is, what the industry does,
yeah.
because that is the starting point. And those are great testimonials that you will hear. To your example earlier, where 5 years later, they were operations managers already. Um, the opportunities in this industry and in an industry that has so many openings that we actually struggle to fill those openings are there. The second advice that I would give would be always try to understand what's happening out there so that you know what skills or competencies you need to work on. And
Yep.
then, you know, we've got IBPAP, which is the umbrella organization for the industry. But you also have all these part associations with us, the Contact Center Association, the Animation Council, Health Information Management, Global In-House Contact Center, and the Game Developers Association, and the Philippine Software Industry Association. All of these organizations are constantly providing updates and
Mm,
information
yeah.
on our industry and what opportunities are available. So the to a lot of our students, for example, you're so savvy with I will Google it and find out more about it. Google
Yeah.
it. Don't stop Googling what's happening with SB19 and Beanie and just Google ITBPM
Just
Philippines
Google
first.
IT-BPM. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Oh, and by
Okay.
the way, sorry, go to the IBPAP website. There are a lot of information bits that you can find there. There's a video there called "It Starts Here,"
Mm-hmm.
which talks. It's an animated video that talks about careers available in the IT BPM industry. You might want to check it out.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that on the description no, para people know how to get in
It's a
touch.
little dated, but I think the concept is
Pretty much the same.
still valid. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think that's a good enough place to hold it for now. I want to thank you, John Marie, for giving us a bit of history, how the culture developed. I mean, these are the insights that we rarely, if ever, get to hear outside of yung mga personal chit chat over drinks. That I think more and more people should be aware of. It's really a legitimate part of the economy. It's delivered value. Parang I feel na talagang we owe it to this sector to nurture it. And the specter of AI for me was an interesting indicator na at the very least people were thinking about it. And then now it seems like rather than one being parang antiseptic to the other, parang lumalabas it's starting to blend and merge it. So the IT BPM industry could become the AI industry in the near future because there's so many experimentation
Completely agree.
happening. Yeah. So thanks, John Marie, for that. And I hope to have you again on another chat.
Thank you. It was totally painless. I enjoyed myself.
All right.